Yo, what's going on, guys? SCJ here, back with another video, and today I want to take a look at and talk about the NBA playoff race, play-in tournament, and the games that will take place when the league resumes action on July 31st. So I'm sure if you're watching this, then you know that when the NBA returns from the season suspension that began on March 11th due to the COVID-19 virus, each of the 22 teams that were invited because they were either seeded 1 through 8 or within 6 games of a playoff spot in their conference will play 8 games to see if a play-in tournament is necessary, and if the 8th and 9th seed are separated by 4 games or less, then we will see a battle for the 8th seed. So let's look at the playoff races and see which teams will most likely make the playoffs in their respective conference. In terms of the East, it very well looks like the playoff teams in the conference will stay exactly the same as it was when the season got suspended. While we could see a shakeup of the seeding as the 2 through 6 seeds are relatively close to one another and the 7 and 8 seeds, the Nets and the Magic, are only separated by half of a game and they also play each other twice, don't expect any of these teams to completely drop out of the playoff picture. The reason being is the 9th-seeded Wizards are 5.5 games behind the Magic and 6 games behind the Nets. So with only 8 games left to play for all 22 teams, it would take a total collapse from the Nets or Magic and an insane winning streak from the Wizards in order for them to hop into the playoffs. Also, John Wall won't be returning for the playoffs, so it seems very unlikely that a Wizards team that's struggled all year will be able to sneak into the playoffs. In terms of the Nets and Magic though, while both teams have a schedule on the tougher side, they play each other twice, and as a diehard Nets fan, I know the Magic gave the Nets trouble this year, so we may very well see them switch seeds, but like I said, don't expect either of them to fall out of the playoff picture completely. In terms of the West, all 3 of the Trailblazers, Pelicans, and Kings are only a game and a half out of 8th spot, and the 12th-seeded Spurs are only 2 games out of the 8th spot. This is more so what the extension or ending to the season and play-in tournament was created for, in my opinion. If television ratings wouldn't have been high already with the lack of sports, they most certainly will be for this battle or playoff race. The only team in the Western Conference playoff race that the Blazers will play are the 8th-seeded Grizzlies, but the Pelicans will play the Spurs, then both the Kings and Grizzlies twice. The Kings will play the Pelicans twice and the Spurs will play the Grizzlies, Pelicans, and the Kings. The 13th-seeded Suns will, of course, also be in Orlando, as they are only 6 games out of 8th, but with games against the Clippers, Heat, Thunder, and Mavericks twice, just to name a few, they most likely won't be able to get right there in that race for the 8th spot in the Western Conference. Nevertheless, though, this end of the season and play-in tournament has me excited since it became official and the team's schedules had come out, and essentially getting a mini playoff or just a tournament before the playoffs even start is right up my alley. In terms of who I see making it in the West, I personally see the Pelicans hopping over both the Trailblazers and the Grizzlies. While the Blazers will be getting Jusuf Nurkic back, who in my opinion is one of the most underappreciated big men in the league, we have no idea how he will be and how he'll be able to contribute after such a disgusting injury against the Nets last March. And plus, the Blazers' schedule appears to be tougher than the Pelicans, with tough games against teams like the Rockets, Mavericks, 76ers, Celtics, and possibly the Heat, and also the first-seeded Lakers. They'll most likely have their hands full. In terms of the Grizzlies, facing the Jazz, Bucks, Thunder, and a tough Pelicans team that you were in the playoff race with twice, I don't think that's going to be very easy. Both the Grizzlies and Blazers were 4 and 6 in their last 10 games also. With the Pelicans facing the Kings and Grizzlies twice, as well as the Magic, and also having a winnable game against the Jazz, it looks like they're in the best position of those teams to grab the 8th seed. They also were 5 and 5 in their last 10 games before the season got suspended. Touching on the Spurs, just so it doesn't seem like I'm leaving them out, having to play the 76ers and Pelicans as well as both the Jazz and Nuggets twice, they are one of those teams that have their hands full as well. So if you had to ask me which Western Conference team I think ends up in the 8th seed, I'd have to say the Pelicans. And I'd be more than happy with that, as that would mean a first-round series with 2 guys who were the 2 most talked about players when they entered the league, Zion and LeBron. The series might not be super competitive as the Lakers were undefeated against the Pelicans this season, but I still think it would be really dope to see and entertaining to watch. Will the Pelicans be ahead of any of those teams by more than 4 games? Most likely not. So that means that we will see a battle between the Pelicans and whoever is in the 9th spot for the 8th seed in the playoffs, which I think will be very entertaining. Especially because if it ends up being a matchup between the Pelicans and the Grizzlies, we will have a battle between 2 teams led by young and hungry players who are the 2 best rookies in the league this year. Also, one little note that I wanted to add in as well is if the Pelicans or hell any of the other teams make the playoffs, that'll mean the end of an historic run for Greg Popovich and the Spurs, as that'll mean their streak of consecutive playoff appearances will end at 22 in a row, which is tied for the most all time. So, while it sucks to see, in my eyes the streak will come to an end this year, and I felt this way even before the season got suspended. So just wanted to bring that up and also pay respect to a guy who's on my NBA coaching Mount Rushmore. And for that reason, I wouldn't be surprised if the team somehow beats the odds and extends the streak to 23 and breaks the all-time record. So, yeah guys, I'm very excited to say the least just to watch and see how the end of the season unfolds for all of the 22 teams and see if we get any possible 8th and 9th seed play-in battles. And I didn't even mention the playoffs yet, and that's one of my favorite sporting events or tournaments every single year. So adding in an 8-game playoff race and possible play-in tournament with the 2020 playoffs will make this year even more entertaining. I want to know what you guys think though. Let me know which teams you see making the playoffs in the Eastern and Western Conference down in the comments below. If you like this video, then give it a like. If you want to see more NBA content and videos, hit that subscribe button. And I'm SCJ, and I am out. Peace.